What is up, guys? It's Hillary, your Enneagram coach. Today's video, we're talking about the type 2 and all the mistypings around the type 2. And you saw, I got my iced tea today. If you saw the last mistyping video, I had to get coffee. I had to turn it into iced coffee because my office is so stinking hot when I film these videos. And today is no different because normally I film these videos at like 10 a.m. so it's not too bad. It's around 1 p.m. right now. I could not get my act together today, so that's what we're doing. It's 1 o'clock, so I switched over to iced tea, and that's what's gonna sustain me during this video. So let's get started, guys. Okay, actually, before we get started, don't forget to push the like button. It's so important, guys. It lets me know that you want more of these videos, and then also subscribe. Push that subscribe button because I have so much content coming your way. I do 2 videos a week right now, and I don't want you to miss out. So push the like button, push the subscribe button, and now let's get started. All right, so the first thing I want to go over is, why do people mistype? Why is that common? Well, it's a thing because, one, your level of self-awareness, right? You have to have some self-awareness in order to take that test, in order to really know yourself, to figure out your true type. And a lot of times when you take this test, you get a top 3. A lot of people assume that that is their main number and then their 2 wings, which is not true at all. Usually your top 3 has your actual main type in it, not always. So they say the tests are about, I don't know, I've heard anywhere from 50% accurate to 70% accurate. Who knows what the real accuracy is with these testings, but do not just rely on a test, guys. That's why I make these videos, and that's why I make this stuff accessible to you. I want you to understand your main type. I want you to land on it. That way it can help you grow, love yourself, and love and accept others. So the next reason why people mistype is, so I'm just gonna use myself as an example. I'm a type 9. Well, I use 4 other numbers. And that means I'm a type 9, which has 2 wings, a 1 wing and an 8 wing. I have access to both of those. Now I consider myself a 9 wing 8, but I can access that 1 wing. It's like a salt and pepper. It flavors my type, my main type being the type 9. And then the next 2 things, I go towards a 3 in health and a 6 in stress. So right there, that's 5 numbers. That is a big reason why we mistype. And there's much more to it than that, but I will just stay there because I want to teach you guys a very simple version to get you started. This video is focused around the type 2 and the mistypings of the type 2, but I would say no matter your type, watch this video because I'm gonna go through each type with the type 2. So for instance, if you're type 9, but sometimes you feel like a 2, or you're like, I wonder if I would be a 2, watch this video. It would definitely help you. So, but it is mainly focused on the type 2 today. I've already covered the type 9 and the type 1. I'll link those down below for mistypes, and I plan on doing all 9 types total because I've had so many requests for this. Like, it's my biggest request right now. All right, so let's get started. Let's get started with the type 2 versus the type 3. This actually is a common mistyping because they have wings involved. The 2 wing 3 and the 3 wing 2. So they do have those wings involved. I would say it's more common for a 2 to mistype as a 3 versus a 3. No, a 3 can mistype as a 2 also. So it is a common mistyping. For the first reason why is they're both in that heart triad. The 2, 3, and 4 is in the heart triad. And so the type 2 and the type 3, they both can feel the reactions of people, and that is a similarity that they both have. I would say a key difference is the type 2s actually aren't as sensitive as the type 3s, which to me is kind of a shocker, but it's true. Yes, the 2s, they're kind and they're sweet and they're, you know, amazing to be around and all those fun things, but they will not be pushed around. They actually have a backbone. When push comes to shove, they're not going to be pushed around depending on their level of health. Because let's be honest, they go towards that 8 in stress, and so if they feel like they're backed into a corner, they're more than likely feeling like they're stressed out. And they're gonna pick up that from the 8 and use that. And so they actually have very firm opinions when push comes to shove. Okay, and the 3, now, you know, like I said, the 2, they're kind and warm and sensitive, and that's how they appear on the outside. Well, the 3, they appear tough. They act tough. They have this tough exterior, but really, they're so sensitive inside, guys. The 3, they're the most sensitive out of all 9 types. They're in the middle of the heart triad. And so they are a lot more sensitive than people think. I think that's sometimes why we see such a tough exterior, because they're protecting their heart, because they are really sensitive. So much more sensitive than the 2, and tender, much more. And so looks could be deceiving here. That's why I do these mistypes, because this is the truth. The 3 is a little bit more sensitive and tender than that type 2. Something they both have in common is they both seek approval, but for different reasons. The type 2, they seek approval by focusing on others' needs and feelings. They want to gain that approval that way, versus the type 3, they might try and gain approval through focusing on goals and tasks and achievements and success and all of that. All of those things to them help them to gain approval. At least that's what they think, right? And so those are the 2 ways that they both try and gain approval. That makes them a little more similar because they both do it, but different because of their reasons why. And I would say a key difference between the 2, look at their fears. The 2, they fear being rejected or people thinking that they are selfish. And the type 3, they fear failure and maybe even having a bad image. And so those are the 2 ways that their fears are different. So that's a key thing to know when deciding if you are a 2 or a 3. Which one of those 2 categories do you fall in? So, all right, let's move on to the 2 versus the 4. So this one is a common mistyping because they share an arrow or a line or whatever you want to call it. The 2 goes towards the 4 in health and the 4 goes towards the 2 in stress. And so when they share that arrow, sometimes a mistyping can happen depending on how strongly they go towards each number, stress or health. So both are super attuned to feelings. The 2 is attuned to everybody else's feelings. The type 4, they're attuned to their own feelings, right? Those are their first instincts. So while they're both attuned to feelings, what makes them different is the reason why. So 2s, they think people like them and they are very used to this. 4s, on the other hand, are more likely to think that they are not good enough and then they might assume people won't like them. So that's a difference between the 2. Both types are relationship oriented, helpful, and emotionally intense. But the type 2, they're always focusing on other people's needs, right? I've already said that. But you'll find the 2 changing themselves to become what others need. And the type 4, they focus more on their own needs, their own authenticity, what makes them special. That's primarily where their focus will go first, and they won't change to meet the needs of others. So the 2 might, but the 4 in most cases will not change to meet those needs. Okay, moving on to the type 2 versus the type 5. This is not a common mistyping. I mean, all mistypings can happen, yes, but this is not a common one. Okay, these 2, they are so different when it comes to boundaries. A type 2, they will actually lose their boundaries for others. Now, they might have good boundaries, but they're more likely gonna lose them if people need them. Depending on the health of the 2, they might just lose those boundaries right away. And the 5, not so much, right? They have boundaries, they have strong boundaries, they have more boundaries, I think, than they need, but they're very good at boundaries and keeping the boundaries. Even if a need comes their way, more than likely the 5 is gonna keep the boundary that they have set. Okay, so a big difference between the 2 is 2s are all about connecting, right? Relationships, connecting, that is so important to a 2. 5s, they think people are gonna invade their space, that people are intrusive, like they're more like, what do you need from me? You know, they're not about connecting like the 2 is. Because 5s, they get easily drained by people, and so they have to protect that a bit more. But that is a big difference between the 2. And the 2, they're in that heart triad, right? The 5, they're in the head triad, and so that makes them different, which means the 2's probably gonna trust their feeling over logic. That doesn't mean the 2 doesn't use their logic, they definitely do, but they're gonna trust their feelings first. And the 5s believe the opposite, right? They are always gonna trust their logic over their feelings. Because why? They feel like emotions are always changing, they fluctuate. And logic, it doesn't change, it's more of the facts. And so emotions to them are just more untrustworthy. Logic is where their trust lies. Yeah, so, okay, so let's move on to the type 2 versus the type 6. This one, I've heard it both ways. I've heard it can be common because of, you know, they both can be very warm, sensitive, nice. I've also heard that it's not common. Also, I think this one boils down to the subtypes. The subtypes are huge in the 6 and what makes the 6s different. I haven't done the video yet, guys. I am gonna do subtypes on all the types. That's coming soon, but that would play a big part in making them appear similar and making a mistyping happen. But I would say as a whole, not as common because their motives are very, very different. So I've heard 6s are more likely to mistype as a 2 versus the 2 to mistype as a 6. Because I think it comes down to how they both think about risk. What does that mean to both of them? I mean, other than their core fears and desires, if you go through those, you'll see big differences. But I think risk plays a big part in this because 2s, risk is not that important to a 2. They're not, a risk doesn't mean a lot to them. They're not thinking like, oh my gosh, that's risky, or should I do that? or that's not usually one of their first thoughts. But 6s are the opposite, right? Because risk to them, they're super afraid of risk. They don't want to take a lot of risk. That's why they're always like plan A, plan B, plan C. And I will say though, there's a counterphobic 6. Research that. That will be in my subtypes video coming up, but since I don't have it out yet, go research that. The counterphobic 6, they're more likely to go, oh, is that a risk? I'm going to go through it. I'm going to accomplish that. I'm going to beat that. And they're not going to let risk. They're not afraid. They are. Oh my gosh. Do you guys hear Luke, my dog? Oh my gosh. I guess this is a drink break. I think the Amazon guy is here. Person at the front door. Amazon guy. Okay, so where was I? I think I was at the counterphobic 6, where risk excites them. They're more likely to just go through, push through, and even though they're scared, they're gonna go through their fear and not let it paralyze them. So that's a big difference. And also the type 2 and the type 6 deal with worry differently. The type 2, not as much. They're not necessarily worrisome type of people. They don't worry a ton. They might worry about people and relationships and, you know, that kind of thing. But as a whole, they're not worried about their safety. They're not worried about survival things, self-preservation things. That's not a big worry for the type 2. But the type 6, they worry a ton, right? They're like I said, plan A, plan B, plan C. They figure it all out. A lot of times those plans are born out of the anxiety and worry that they're feeling. So, which leads me to how they both deal with like doubt. The 2s don't doubt very much. They're more like, yep, I believe this. This is what I believe. I'm going to move forward. They think they have the answers and they don't mind sharing them. The type 6, lots of doubt, right? They have that inner committee in their head telling them all the things that could go wrong. So that's another big difference between the 2. So let's move on to the type 2 versus the type 7. This is a common mistyping. They both want to be liked a lot. They're upbeat, they're active, and they're both in that optimistic triad. The 2, the 7, and the 9, they are in that triad. And so they share a lot of similarities that way. And what that means is they have a positive outlook on life. They want others to be happy. And so all those 3 types share that in common. Okay, one of the differences I would say is if we think about tasks, doing things, getting things done, making a list. A 2, they can get things done. They can stay on that task at hand. They're not easily distracted. They're more able to focus and get things done. Versus the type 7, they're easily distracted. They can be very scattered. They're less likely to be able to focus in for long periods of time. They can focus, let's be honest, they get things done. But I'm just saying that focusing for a long period of time for a 7 will be more painful and stressful for them. It's harder for them to do. I actually told somebody a few weeks ago, they were trying to decide between a 7 and a 2, and we were talking about, you know, the similarities and differences. And one of the ones I mentioned was the type 2. They will focus on the needs of others first before taking care of themselves. So this is a struggle for them to always be focusing on everyone else, that sometimes even their health deteriorates. They don't take care of their health because they're so focused on taking care of everybody else first. And now the 7, they can focus on others, but that's not their first instinct. Their first instinct is to focus on themselves and satisfy their own needs and wants first, and satisfy their desires that will help them feel content and happy. And so it comes down to that instinct. I think a 2's instinct is stronger when focusing, you know, that they're going to focus on everyone else first. And the 7, they're probably going to focus on themselves first and then others. Not wrong, not right, you know, that is just something that makes them different. Okay, so moving on to the type 2 versus the type 8. Now this is a common mistyping, more with women than men. A reason why a type 8 woman might mistype as a 2 is because they might think like, a type 8, they're too bold, they're too aggressive, you know, that's not how I want to be. And so they gravitate more towards their 2 arrow. And one of the big reasons for this to be common is they share a line. They share that arrow line. The 8 goes towards the 2 in health, and the 2 goes towards the 8 in stress. So when you share that, it can be a little more common to mistype as each other. A type 2 will lead if they have to. They don't want to, they don't mind not leading, they don't seek leading out, they don't necessarily want to be in a leadership role, but like I said, they can and they will. They most likely want to support others instead. And the type 8, I think they were born to lead. They want to lead. They want to be the leader. They're comfortable as a leader. They prefer to lead. They like to be in charge. And so that kind of, you know, hopefully will help you if you're deciding between the 2, which way, you know, think about your leadership. Think about, do you want to lead or do you not want to lead? That might help you. Although I will say my husband's a type 8. He is a leader. He has always been in leadership roles. But I think he would say he doesn't want to lead. He would rather not lead, but he was born to lead, and so he does, right? He just gets put in leadership roles, but I would say he would prefer not to be. If that helps you. I don't think it does help you actually, but I'm just being honest. That's what he would say, I think. I'll have to ask him. If you want to know the true answer, let me know in the comments below and I will ask him and I will let you know what he says. I think if you are really struggling between that type 2 and type 8, I would look at the core fears, because that core fear of an 8, what is it? Being harmed, being controlled, being manipulated, being vulnerable. Those are very different core fears than the type 2. The type 2's core fears, they have that big fear of being unwanted, unloved, rejected, not good enough. And remember, they feel like in order to get love, they have to give it. It's not a free thing. And so that's that core fear in them. So those two fears, if you look at the fears of the type 2 and type 8, really different. And I would say the social 8, they're the most likely to mistype as a 2, because the social 8, they are more focused on helping, and so they do have that in common. And the last one for the 8, I would say look at the anger. If you're trying to decide if you're a 2 or an 8, look at anger. How do you handle anger? How does it show up in your life? Because the 2s would say they're not angry that much. They're not in the anger triad. They're not angry that much. But I will say, guys, you know they go towards the 8 when they're stressed, and so their anger is more like a volcano. It's building, it's building, it's building, and then it'll erupt. And then they feel better. The pressure has been let off. But the type 2, they're gonna feel more guilty and embarrassed by their anger when it's all said and done. Not the type 8, right? They're in that anger triad. They think anger's fine, it's an emotion, no big deal. They're gonna express it. To them, it's not a bad emotion. It's more simply just an emotion that needs to be expressed. It's something they feel. They're like, yeah, that, it's not bad. And they are not gonna feel guilty for expressing their anger. So I would say that's a big difference between the type 2 and the type 8. Okay, so moving on to the type 2 versus the type 9. Now, I already have a video. I did the mistypes of the type 9 already, and I'll link that down below. And so if you want more information on the mistypings between these two, go watch that video, because I'm only gonna cover it very briefly here. And I'm gonna say this one's a super common mistyping. This is the #1 mistyping. The #1 mistyping out of all the types is the 2 and the 9. They have so many similarities. They're so common because both are focused on others. They're helpful, they're kind, they're warm, they're personable. They share all of that in common, and they're both in that optimistic triad, right? Like I said, the 2, the 7, and 9 in the optimistic triad. So they're both in that, so they share all those similarities on how they see the world through that positive outlook lens. I would say a difference would be a 2. They can get people to like them. It's extremely easy for them, not a big deal. The 9, they're not gonna try and get people to like them. They aren't seeking that. That's not their goal in life. Their goal is not for people to like them, and not all 2s want everyone to like them. So hear me there. But when they do, they can get people to like them, no big deal. And the difference is 9s, they aren't seeking for people to like them. They care if people like them, but that's not their #1 goal. We know what their #1 goal is, right? Peace, harmony, connection. That is way more important than getting people to like them. Not that they don't want them to, but those 3 things come first. And the last one I'll share is a 2 will wear themselves out helping people. A 9, they're not gonna help unless asked a lot of times. They don't wanna cause conflict. They don't know if people want their help. So they're a little more timid and shy when it comes to that. But like I said, go watch that video if you want even more info on the type 2 versus the type 9. And the last one I have is the type 2 versus the type 1. This is gonna be another one of those where I've already done a video on this, and I will link that one down below too. This mistypings video is already made, so go watch that one so that you can get a little more info on the 2 versus the 1. A couple things I'll share that I didn't share in the other video, I don't think. Well, one I did. They have similar wings in common, so that makes them can appear like each other. That 2 has the 1 wing and the 1 has the 2 wing, and so they have that in common. One difference is they both will suppress or repress their own needs. Like the 1, they'll repress or suppress their anger and it'll come out sideways. And the type 2 will repress their own needs and wants, and they won't ask for help. They want to help everybody, but they are really, really bad at asking for help. Another thing I can think of is a type 1, they will not alter themselves to make everyone happy. The type 2, like I've already said, they will alter themselves to make other people happy depending on the situation, depending on the health of the 2, that can happen. And the last one I'll share, which I think I shared in the other video, is the type 1s. They do good things to right what is wrong and to be seen as upstanding and good. The type 2, they do good things to feel important and to gain some validation from others. And so that's a difference between the 2 on why they do the things that they do, why they do their good things. That might help you decide if you're a type 2 or a type 1. But like I said, go look at the core fears and the core desires, core longings, core weaknesses. All of those will help you decide if you're still by the end of this confused. Otherwise, go watch my other videos. I have interviews with type 1s and type 2s. That might help you too. So, but I bet you this video is way too long. I am trying to get these videos shorter, and I do not think I was successful this time. Dang it, I tried, guys, I tried, I promise. I don't know what this is gonna be. I'm just hoping it's shorter than the last two, because I think those were like, I don't know, 17 or 18 minutes. I'm like, geez, Hillary, who has that kind of time? But anyways, but yeah, so I'm gonna hurry up and close this. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm Hillary_McCaskey_coaching. I also have a website, EnneagramandCoaching.com. You can find me there. Okay, and like I said at the beginning, don't forget to like the video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Super important. I have so much coming your way. 2 videos a week now. But I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for making it this far. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.